Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about introduction of toxicology and principle of toxicology. So what is toxicology? Toxicology is the study of adverse effect of chemical, physical or biological agents on living organisms. It explores how these agents interact with biological systems, leading to harmful consequences. It may be divided into several major areas, that is reproductive toxicology, environmental toxicology, behavioral toxicology, medical toxicology, forensic toxicology, clinical toxicology, genotoxicology, and regulatory toxicology. So these are some major areas which comes under toxicology. So what are the basic principles of toxicology? Here are the first one is dose response, or we can say dose response relationship. The relationship between the dose of a substance and the severity of its effect. A higher dose typically leads to a greater response. So the dose response relationship is when the evaluation of dose response relationship is crucially important to toxicologists. Then there is a graded dose response relationship in an individual on a counter dose response relationship in the population. This counter dose response phenomenon is extremely important in toxicology and is used to determine the median lethal dose, or we can say LD50, of drugs and other chemicals. The LD50 of a compound is determined experimentally, usually by administration of the chemical to mice or rats at several doses in the lethal range. To determine the lethal range, when we perform practical, we can start with the smallest dose and we gradually increases that dose and see their effects. So the second one is route of exposure. It includes the way in which a substance enters the body, which can influence its toxicity. Many drugs may intake via oral route, parenteral route, and some other routes. So the routes may also important for which we can study about toxicology, or we can see the toxic effect of any particular drug or chemical substance. Third one is individual variation. So the factors like age, gender, genetics, and health status can influence an individual's susceptibility to toxin. The age, gender, and genetics may vary individually for the toxic effect of any substance. Some persons may show less effect of any particular dose of that drug, and some other person may show variable effects. So person to person, the dose of any drug may vary according to their immunity, according to their age, according to their gender. Last one is time of exposure. The duration and frequency of exposure to a substance can affect its toxicity. When the time increases, it may cause severity or cause chronic effects. At the starting phase, it may cause acute toxicity, which is what is acute toxicity and chronic toxicity. Acute toxicity means any toxicity that persists for a short duration of time, chronic toxicity that persists for longer duration of time at a higher doses or a smaller doses. Except these four, there are some other principles that may comes under toxicology, and that is risk and its assessment. It involves acute versus chronic exposure, whether the drug is exposure acute way or in chronic way. The second one is chemical forms of drug that produce toxicity. Third one is toxic metabolites. During metabolism process, some chemicals may convert or may biotransform into toxic substances. Those are called toxic metabolites. Next one is phototoxic and photoallergic reaction. Phototoxic and photoallergic mean when any person intake that drug which is poisonous for that person or may cause toxic effect, and if that person may go in direct sunlight, it may cause phototoxicity and photoallergic reactions. Next one is reactive oxygen species. The second one is a spectrum of undesired effect. A spectrum means if any dose may intake by any person, what is the range of exposure or what is the range of toxicity, that is called a spectrum of that undesired effect for that particular drug. It includes types of toxic reactions which are local versus, first one is local versus systemic toxicity, second one is reversible and irreversible toxic effects, third one is delayed toxicity. So the local versus systemic toxicity means if that exposure or chemical reaction or toxic effect on a particular area of our body, that is called local toxicity, and if that toxic substance comes into our bloodstream, that may circulate throughout our body, that is called systemic toxicity. Second one is reversible and irreversible toxic effects. If any reaction may occur again and again, that is called reversible, and if any toxic reaction that may cause only one time and it may disappear after some time, that is comes under irreversible toxic effect. Next one is delayed toxicity. What is delayed toxicity? Delayed toxicity means if any person may intake the particular drug or any drug which is poisonous or which is toxic, and if that treatment is stopped by that person, but by stopping that treatment it may cause allergic reaction, that is called delayed toxicity. Other than that, some other principles are chemical carcinogens, allergic reactions, idiosyncratic reaction, and interaction between chemicals. So, what is chemical carcinogens? The chemical carcinogens are classified into two major groups: genotoxic and non-genotoxic. The genotoxic carcinogens interact with DNA, whereas non-genotoxic carcinogens do not. Non-genotoxic carcinogens, also referred to as promoters, do not produce tumors alone but do not potentiate the effect of genotoxic carcinogens. So these are some briefly explained the principles of toxicology. So, what is the route of exposure? It includes inhalation, that is breathing in toxic substances through the lungs. Second is ingestion, that is swallowing toxic substances through the mouth. Next one is dermal, contact with toxic substances through the skin. Last one is injection, that is introducing toxic substances directly into the bloodstream. So after intaking that poison or that chemical substance which is cause toxicity, what is the dose and what is that response? What is that particular drug response? It comes under dose response relationship. If we gradually increases the dose of that drug, it may gradually increases its effect, whether it toxic or beneficial. So the first one is threshold dose, the minimum dose required to produce a measurable effect. Second one is linear response, a direct relationship between dose and effect. Third one is non-linear response, an effect that reduces or decreases at higher doses. So what is absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion of that carcinogens or toxic substances? Absorption is the process by which a substance enters the bloodstream, and after absorption through the blood, it may runs throughout the body. So the distribution is the movement of a substance throughout the body. Next one is metabolism, the breakdown of a substance into metabolites. And last one is excretion, the elimination of a substance from the body. So our next slide is toxicity testing and risk assessment. Toxicity testing involves exposing animals or cells to substance to determine their effects. Risk assessment is the process of evaluating the likelihood of adverse effects from exposure to a substance. What is occupational and environmental toxicology? The occupational toxicology focuses on the health effects of workplace exposures, and environmental toxicology examines the impact of pollutants on ecosystems and human health. What are the major organ systems that involves or majorly affected through these toxic substances? First one is cardiovascular, effects on the heart, blood vessels and circulation. Second is nervous, effects on the brain, spinal cord and nerves. Third one is respiratory, effects on the lungs and breathing. Last one is hepatic, effects on the liver and its function. So coming to our last slide, what is emerging trends and challenges in toxicology? Nanotechnology is the toxicity of nanoparticles is a growing concern nowadays. We are using our advanced technology through which we can reduce the dose and increase its potential effects or therapeutic effects, but due to these advancements it may cause harmful effects to our body. The second one is genetically modified organism. It involves the potential health effects of genetically modified organisms are under investigation. So that's all for today. Thank you.